welcome back to the Sasser House. My name is Emily.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Sassers. We are so excited that you are here, and I am so excited for the project that we are doing today. We're transforming our bedroom. Here she is. This is what she looks like right now. We painted these walls, and we painted the trim, and then of course just basically moved our decor in.
Kind of boring.
But it's kind of boring. We want to add more color, we want to add more interest, and so we were so excited when Photowall, which is a company based out of Sweden, reached out to us and wanted to collaborate on some wallpaper, which we don't have any wallpaper in the house, but we've been looking at it, we've been wanting to get into it. So it was really, really neat that we got to team up with them. So this is the one that we picked. I'll link the name of it and a link to the exact wallpaper if you want it as well. But if you keep watching, you'll see how we turned our room from this to this. So what is our first step in this transformation process?
So we didn't want to do the entire wall in wallpaper. So we've seen this trend of this board and batten stuff, which I've never done, but it's going to be super easy, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do that, and you guys can learn with me. But we're going to do the board and batten first. I'm going to put these, first I've got to tear the baseboards out. Then we will put all new base, put the up and down boards, and then the top boards. And then we will caulk everything, paint that board and batten, and then we will do the upper half of the wall in wallpaper. So let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Our first step was moving all of our furniture off of our walls and into the center of our room. This made for a little bit of a cluttered room, but it was a must so that we could access our baseboards easily.
All right, so the tools that you need to get started is a razor knife, a little pry bar, and a hammer. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is take my razor knife and basically just make a long cut along the top of the baseboard where the caulk would probably be, just to loosen it up. Then I will hammer the pry bar down behind the drywall or between the drywall and the baseboard and pry off the old baseboard. We're going to be replacing these with a 1x5 board. So first, just getting rid of all of the old baseboard.
And then dusting up all that dust that was under this thing.
You should see under the bed.
That was rude. Baseboards are done. He's been working in here for about an hour and they're all ripped up. What's next?
Okay, so I've got to make sure I get all of the nails out of the walls. And basically we're going to mark the studs and we're going to start putting the baseboards in first. So that's what's next.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Hard-working man.
I'm going to make Emily take off the switch plate covers. Because we got to paint.
Hard-working girl.
All right, so I am just marking where they're old screws nail holes were on all of the studs. So I don't have to actually find the studs. I just go to where they put the last nails.
Wow, that's really good penmanship.
You like that? Okay, so I've got the saw set up and it's time to cut the base, which is the 1x5 boards, the biggest boards that we have. And the only, I wouldn't say hard, but the hardest cuts that you have to do on this project is a couple 45-degree cuts or miter cuts for the corners. And so you don't have to do this. You could always just cut it straight and make the boards butt against each other, but if you want it to look the best that it can look, you want to cut a 45-degree angle on both boards so they meet perfectly in the corners. And so I've got Emily helping me hold the board, just because if you've got a long board and you're trying not to waste any, it just helps to have somebody there or something to sit it on. So I'm gonna cut a 45-degree angle on the corner, and then we'll go in and shoot this board on.
This goes to show you ain't gotta have fancy stuff to make it happen.
Oh no, I always just set up on the tailgate of my truck.
A truck bed and a helping hand, baby.
Oh yeah. Okay, so hold it level. Yep, right there. Perfect. Change the way. My miter saw is not big enough to go all the way through this board, so basically just flip it around. Yep, lift up a little bit right there. And we will try to make that line up. So this way, one board will sit like this and the other board will be the opposite and come this way. Okay, so I've got liquid nails, which I don't think you have to do this, but it's just going to help everything stick and I won't have to put as many of our actual nails into the wall. And so I'm just gonna do just a little bit of liquid nails on each board, and then I will still use my nail gun and shoot it into the studs where I can. So. So I've got the other side against the wall over there, and it's mitered the opposite direction. And so I can just see where these two boards meet. And I'm gonna make my mark, and then I'll come back and cut that. So we've got the baseboards all run, and for the next step, we are going to go ahead and do the top board. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that we get this top board level. So I'm gonna draw a line to reference to, so we don't have to do any more measuring or leveling, except for unless we wanna check and make sure that it's level. But basically, I'm going around the room, and we want ours to be exactly half of the wall. Our walls are 8 foot, so we're gonna make a few marks at 48 inches around the room. I just go about every 2 or 3 feet and make another mark at 48 inches just to know that I am kind of on the right track and that I'm at that 48-inch mark. And so after I get those marks, I take my level, I place it on my 48-inch marks. And you may not be, if your floors are not completely level, or if you go off the ceiling and it's not completely level, you may not actually hit every single 48-inch mark. but you'll want to make sure that you are level. That's more important because you will see that with the eye. So you make sure that that bubble is right in the middle and that your line is level. Then you take your pencil and you mark your line. And then now I will put that board, actually my board will sit just below the line. So that will be exactly 48 inches for our wallpaper to go above the line. All right, so right after doing that line at 48 inches, Emily and I realized that the light switch would be right in the middle of this board. And so we talked about it and, you know, could we cut around it or stop the board on both sides of the light switch and make it continue? And we talked about it and Emily was like, that's just not gonna look right. And so we've decided to actually do the board on top of that 48-inch line. And so that will give us a little bit less of wallpaper, but we think that that's gonna look better. And I've realized as I went around the room and marked where my slat boards or boards that go up and down are going to go, we have a ton of outlets in our room and we just don't want them to obviously hit the outlet and have to break or have to even butt up right against it. And so I have had to, you know, try 20 inches, 18 inches, 16 inches. And so I finally landed on a distance in between that works. So I don't know what is actually correct or, you know, what to recommend to you guys, but for our room, it has made the most sense to do our top board above that 48-inch line. And then I've went around and marked out 18 inches between each slat board. And so basically to do that, I came 18 inches off of the first wall, made the first mark, and then I measured 2.5 inches, which is my 1x3 width. And I went ahead and made the second mark. And then I came off of that mark and went to 18 inches to the next mark. So that's how you can get the actual measurement instead of trying to measure just to the center of the board and then figure out, you know, where the next one's gonna be. I went ahead and measured out the actual width of the board that I'm using for the up and down boards. And so I've got those all marked. And I think it's all gonna work out. We're not gonna hit any of these outlets or light switches. And so now I'm going to go around the room and use a level and make sure all of these lines are drawn out where those boards are supposed to be. And then we will go outside and cut the top boards, which is basically just going to be the exact same thing as the base. I'm gonna miter those corners and we are going to start shooting that up. So putting one of these boards up, I've got my mitered end towards the corner. And over the past few minutes of doing this, I realized how hard it is to do by yourself. So there's a little trick for you. If you're trying to do this by yourself and you're trying to hold up one of these long boards, I've got my 3-foot level kind of leaned at an angle, or you can just cut a board that kind of holds it in place for you. So you can get it on that line and then you can shoot it in. And I put a couple nails in it. Make sure I'm still on the line over here so I'm all level. Put a few more in there. Then you can take this off and make sure you get nails in all of the studs. So that's just a little tip if you're trying to do this by yourself. Emily left and went on the road today, and so I kind of learned that on my own. So maybe that will help you out. Okay, so now that we've got the base and the top trim in, I went ahead and cut a couple of these slats. And so even though it's level, my floor is not, or the top board is level across, the bottom is not necessarily, because my floors are definitely out of level. And so make sure to measure the in-between distance for every single one because they are slightly different. Your floors may be perfectly level, but that's what I am doing because I found that mine are slightly different. And so since I've already got my level lines straight down, I've got these cut, and basically it's going to be repeating the same step as before. I'm going to glue the back with the liquid nails and then shoot a couple nails in each one. And so I'm going to just do that with these and then continue all the way around the room. After you get all of the boards up, the next step was caulking all of the edges and cracks and then filling all of the nail holes. But here is where the biggest issue with the entire project came in, was paint. So we went to Home Depot and picked out several different paint swatches, and we landed on this kind of burnt orangish brown color. And Emily went back on the road and left me with that new paint to paint all of the board and batten. And so basically I went in with a paintbrush and did all of the edges of the boards with the brush, and then I used a 3 or 4 inch foam roller and rolled all of the flat surfaces with the roller. And her response in the next clip will show you how she really felt about this color after she saw it on the walls, and I did the entire bedroom. And so after we realized this horrible color, we went ahead and redid the entire room in the original paint color. And so that was fun. I'm showing you all of our mistakes.
So, update. This color sucks.
It's horrible.
And I am so sad because Chris stayed home yesterday to work on this all day long, and then he called me and said, I don't think you're gonna like it. And I was like, oh, maybe I will. And then I got home at 1 a.m. from being on the road, and I looked around and I said, oh no, I don't like it. It's not right at all. We did a really good job picking our colors for when we first moved into the house, which I guess we just picked cream and white. But this is literally like chocolate cherry pudding. It's bad. It's not good. So now we're going to go back in and repaint with our original trim color, Dainty Lace. So I have a right at 11, but I'm going to see how much I can get done. It's like 7:20, and Chris is going to go weed eat and take a break and hopefully not file for DIVORCE.
So we are now obviously started on the wallpaper, and so I went ahead and did a couple of these sheets. This is my first time ever doing wallpaper, but it's really, I've done, I guess, 3 or 4 sheets now. On the 5th sheet. It's really not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I was really nervous about it. But first, basically, I'm taking the brush that came with our wallpaper kit, and I'm brushing on the glue evenly all the way from the board and batten all the way to the ceiling, but only doing about as wide as 1 sheet. I don't want to get too far ahead because that glue will start to dry. And so that's what I'm doing first, and then I will take the sheet of wallpaper. Emily is cutting them for me, and basically I'm just lining up the pattern with the previous sheet. Then I take a brush and brush out all of the bubbles, make sure that it's nice and good and stuck at the ceiling and at the seam down at the bottom. And then, of course, I've got a seam roller that makes the seam between the previous sheet and this sheet hopefully almost invisible. So that's kind of the process. And then at the end, we will take a trim guide and a razor blade and cut all of the excess off.
So here's a clip of us hanging a sheet of the wallpaper. Chris did majority of the work, and I was just there to hand him tools or to help line the sheet up so that the pattern would line up. But we left this in real time so that you could see
how much time it takes to hang each sheet. It's not that this is a really difficult process, more than it is just a time-consuming process, because you want to make sure that everything lines up correctly. There's no air bubbles or anything like that in the wallpaper. Another thing we forgot to mention is PhotoWall, the company that we ordered our wallpaper from. They also sell a wallpaper kit, and that came with literally everything you need to be successful in hanging wallpaper. All the tools that we used came in that kit, and it was under $30 for the entire kit. And we'll have those tools in the future if we ever do wallpaper again. So I would absolutely recommend in purchasing some type of wallpaper kit if you're going to do this for yourself.
So as you saw, Emily just helped me. We basically just lined up this piece with the previous pattern, and it actually is not as hard as it sounds or as it looks. If you just make sure that your very first piece is nice and level, and even draw a level line to get that first piece started, then you don't have to worry about measuring and making sure that each of the next sheets are level. You just go off of that previous pattern. And so basically you're just lining it up, making sure that the seams are tight and that they're matching the previous piece. And then I've been having a problem at the bottom and the top, just not being able to get it to stick against the wall. I'm basically just taking extra glue, then I'll re-lift it up and spread that glue down along the bottom and the top. And I press it in and make sure it will stick. To smooth out any air bubbles, you're going to take this wide brush and start at the top and basically just keep brushing all the way down until you get all of those air bubbles out. Then I take the seam roller and go over the seam, and it seems to squish out a little bit of glue, which it said you don't want to leave any excess glue on the face, so I'm taking a damp rag and wiping that. So to start a new wall, you always want to start from the left side and work your way to the right. And you need to make sure that your very first strip of wallpaper is completely level. And so what you want to do is take your tape measure and measure the width of one strip of your wallpaper, which my wallpaper is 17 3/4. And so since my wall, I can tell that it is not straight here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go 17 3/4 and make a mark several different places all the way up the wall. And then I will take a level and draw a straight line and make sure that it's level at 17 3/4. And whenever it's time, I'll make sure that this line here that I'm drawing is completely level. And then I will actually do this piece a little bit opposite. I will make sure that it is perfectly lined up with the level line, and then I might have to cut not a straight line off of the excess on the part against the wall. And so basically you're just making a level line to start off of, and then you will cut the excess over here at the wall.
Thank you guys so much for following along with us for this bedroom flip, and we hope that it encouraged you to try some new things that maybe you haven't tried before, because neither of us had done, when I say neither of us, Chris did all the work.
I didn't do all the work.
Chris did all the work. I did, I was a good assistant.
Yeah.
But Chris had never done any of this before, and you tell him what you learned and some takeaways, maybe some tips for people if they want to try it for themselves.
Yeah, so it really was not as complicated as I thought that wallpapering was going to be. And so I guess one of the biggest things was actually that I had an extra set of hands. So Emily definitely helped by just being there. She was able to help cut the pieces out and hand me each strip when I was ready. So I would do the gluing, she would hand me the strip, and it was really helpful to have 2 sets of hands to make sure that the seams lined up and the pattern matched the previous pattern. And so that, and then also just being able to say, hey, while I'm on a stool and I'm working with the wet glue, she could hand me a tool as I needed it. So it was helpful to have an extra set of hands for sure. And then
and would you do it again?
I would definitely do it again.
That's how you know a project is worth trying.
Yeah.
When we do projects and we're like, oh my goodness,
never again.
We never want to do this again. That's how you know that it's kind of a doozy. But honestly, like watching him do it and us kind of doing this together, I think that we would absolutely do it in another room in the house.
I think we will. It was really not hard at all. It was just time consuming, and like you had to take your time and make sure the details were right. And so sometimes I'm not good about that, but it was really a satisfying project because you got to see a whole wall completely transformed. I guess, you know, the other thing would be just how important it is to make sure that first sheet is level. So getting a level line. I did that really well on 3 of the 4 walls that we did, but then the last wall that I did, I guess somehow, I think I started with a level line, but I got off a little bit. And so anyways, it still worked out fine and it still looks great, but it definitely is important to make sure you start off level.
So as we mentioned before, we got this wallpaper from Photowall, which is a company based out of Sweden, but the shipping was so easy to get here to our home in Nashville, in the States. And so I will link the exact wallpaper that we got below so that you can get it for yourself if you would like, or look through some of their wallpapers. We don't have a whole lot of experience with wallpaper to tell you like this is the best, but as beginners, the whole process was really easy. So you should definitely check them out if you would like to do something like this for yourself. We'll also link the paint color that we used and any other tools or information that you might need to know in the description box below. So if y'all just leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't yet. We would love to see you around here more at the Sasser House, and we so appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.